I spoke about nostalgia some weeks ago when I was talking about how Patriot at Worlds of Fun never quite got to shine through those dark, sad clouds that Orient Express left. I promised to get back on this idea of nostalgia, so here we are, because it's a very relevant psychological theory that is associated with amusement parks and theme parks. I'll define nostalgia, talk about a coaster that really represents what nostalgia is, and I'll discuss how it got its notability. Nostalgia is the psychological proneness to long and wish to return for rewarding and prominent experiences of your past. It's highly associated with individuals' personalities. It literally means homecoming pain. Even though we usually talk about it with positive mood states, which is called sentiment, it could be depressing as well. They literally got the term from soldiers. Speaking of that, I randomly listened to Josh Groban's I'll Be Home for Christmas the other day, and it had like the people sending letters to their loved ones that are in the military off to war, and I had to cut that off and curse at Josh Groban to keep my tears at bay. Does that mean I'm going to hell? Probably. It's already too late. I binge watched The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so I'm basically a Satanist at this point. Our amusement parks are no dummy to nostalgia. It is a cash cow. Nostalgic people tend to act more charitably. Businesses use it all the time to market to consumers. In fact, a lot of parks use nostalgia as its foundational marketing technique. One of those parks is Kennywood Park in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Kennywood has so many classic flat rides, it just brings me back to a place that I would be able to see it from a distance next to the no colors allowed sign. It has the old time Woodies that are still erect. You would think they would be limp by now. Kennywood must have some hell of a subscription partnership with Viagra. Racer racing and figure 8 style Mobius loop wooden coaster. Well, kinda. Jackrabbit, a double out and back Woody, and Thunderbolt. An awkward combination of both. I wouldn't be me if I didn't talk about being awkward, because you know, any nostalgic memory for me is going to be awkward. It is my self-identity. Thunderbolt opened in 1929. Its height is 70 feet and its largest drop is 90 feet, propelling the train to 50 miles per hour using the terrain. The coaster was designed by renowned coaster designer John A. Miller. It debuted with the name Pippin. I would have preferred Pimpin', but that's just my preference. In 1968, it got a redesign expansion led by the park's Andy Vettel, and it got a new name, Thunderbolt. In 1974, it was recognized as the best roller coaster in the world. Thunderbolt is one of very few roller coasters that you come out the station and you go downhill, just like my life is after I leave my house. Another rarity is that it gets to the lift in the middle, kind of like what I do when I realize that I drink too much in the middle of a Saturday night. Because Kennywood loves to squeeze rides wherever they can in complex, seemingly very expensive ways, Thunderbolt closed to put in Raging Rapids in 1985, Still Phantom in 1991, and the renovated Phantom Revenge in 2001. So you walk through Kennywood to get to Thunderbolt and you're like, where the hell is this entrance? Like seriously. And you keep getting distracted by that green ride with that big turn and them hills, you know, the turtle. You're like, I wonder. So after riding the turtle and being pleasantly surprised of how much you enjoyed it, you finally find the entrance beneath the lift hill. You get to the station and you sit in, praying God the whole thing doesn't just fall apart. But the non-operating lights kind of reminding you of the Iron Giant just makes you feel a little cozy. And you're like, oh, you know what? It's going to be all right. You proceed forward slowly thinking, hey, this isn't as rickety as I thought it was going to be. And then you plummet down a ravine. Well, damn, at least let me prepare. You rise back up with a turnaround and a dope view of Phantom Revenge and the Pennsylvania landscape. And then you fall back down and rise, think you'll just level out, but the chain decides to shank you. So you proceed up the hill. At the top of the hill, you make a right turn and you're like, aw, this is adorable. We're not too high at all. Until it turns with practically no bank, like some dude using your money for credit card fraud. Get your old damn bank, nigga. You go flopping on the edge of your seat like Kermit the Frog waving his arms about. And whoever's next to you just slid all up onto you until you become one. Scrambler ass, I thought I was cute to squeeze you, but I'm suffocating ass coaster. You rise back up with a turning hill and a dip. It's pretty fun. You make another turning hill back into the barely banked right turn. You know, I'm used to getting curved, but this is that one girl who looks at you in your eye and says, "Ugh, you ugly. Never talk to me again." You rise up the next hill. Recently, it seems they put a roof over the trim brake and it's like a stronger trims. Don't know when this happened, but boo, trims are for squares, says the guy who gave the beast a life changer. Next, you plummet down this big ass drop down into the ravine. You holding on to that lap bar like, hold on, stay with me now. And you rise back up this turning hill, and at the top, it doesn't slow down as much as you thought it would. The next thing you know, you're dropping down the largest drop, holding on to your riding partner when just a few seconds ago you were desperately trying to peel them off of you. Then you rise into the final brake run. Bruh. I'll rate that ride kick ass. It's very original, it's classic, it's more forceful than you expect, but it's also not gonna snatch your panties away. Is that an expression? So why is Thunderbolt so nostalgic? Cause it's old? Yeah, but not all old things are nostalgic. I mean, clearly this ride is dope. So a bunch of people will have sentiment towards it. Yet still, Thunderbolt invokes nostalgia in other ways. Lifespan Retrieval describes the ability to remember significant events in your life, both personal and public. It consists of 3 prominent sections. The first is a period of childhood amnesia that occurs from birth to about 10 years of age. Not saying you won't have nostalgia for things experienced before the age of 10. It's just on average, the weight of those memories may not be as strong. The last is a period of recency, which is you not being able to recall significant events post the age of 30. The period we're focusing on is in the middle. It's called the reminiscence bump. Many people rode Thunderbolt during this period, between age 10 and 30. Basically, your age of self-discovering, starting with adolescence and ending when you give up on life. Nostalgia is suggested to elevate positive self-regard and self-esteem, perhaps because longing for the past is truly longing for self. Sense of belonging is literally what it's called. You feel like you belong. Sense of belonging happens both unconsciously and intentionally. You're just trying to fit in. Riders' sense of belongingness to Thunderbolt fandom runs across ecological system levels, to being a personal pleasure to a shared Thunderbolt fandom, and also a shared wooden coaster fandom, Kennywood fandom, old coaster fandom, Pennsylvania natives, American and theme park fandom, and just plain roller coaster enthusiasm across generations. Nostalgia strengthens social bonds. Riding Thunderbolt is a shared experience of not just millions of park guests over the years, but is of those excited park guests that never seen anything like this in 1968, and even those riders of the Pippin in 1929. Like, your ass is touching where Roaring Twenties asses were. It's bigger than you because people who you have never even encountered had that same similar experience that you share, that common experience. The yearning for such a shared experience from the past increases when people are lonely. The notion of feeling alone, it ain't fun, and is not good for survival in the long run. Thus, the emotional evolution prompted this mood state of loneliness. Spoken by the guy who sits in his room and cuts on a camera to pretend he's not talking to himself. Nostalgia is very much associated with loneliness as well as not valuing your current life, thinking about death. I don't know, the more people that think about death, the more nostalgic they tend to be. Basically, if you're pretty happy about the way things are and you don't ponder death, you probably won't be searching in the past for happiness, wanting to relive something because you aren't really living now. I didn't mean to scare you. Just because you feel nostalgic does not mean you're suicidal. I've been on the low, I've been taking my time. I've been going out of my mind. It's too late, I'm sorry. All this waiting on me. I'm sorry. Joyner Lucas's suicide song is better than Logic's, I'm sorry. Literally, I'm sorry. Back to Thunderbolt. It's also interesting how the death of an era makes people long for such an experience. An era most of its riders didn't even experience. And this would be supported by the perspective of the current amusement scope being poor. I can see how Thunderbolt nostalgia could have skyrocketed with the introduction of Skyrocket, cause that Slinky ride at Disney probably gets more airtime than them hills. But they're getting still curtain, so Thunderbolt, it's not gonna be your year in 2019. Or thinking about SNS, make that 2020. False and exaggerated memories are very common. Nostalgia may play a role in this. There's a debate about why this happens. Well, the moments where it's clearly not intentional. Your increased sentiment and value of riding Thunderbolt may be a little bit skewed when you try to recount your experience. It is also noted that when a trusted figure like someone you rode Thunderbolt with in your sentimental memories supports your memory recall, even if it's not all true, your recount may become a bit more fabricated. Personally relevant details like you having a preference for wooden coasters may get in the way of recollecting an experience. And when no one calls you out on your bullshit, you feel confident that it actually happened the way you remember. That still doesn't mean it did. I remember Thunderbolt being my second favorite coaster at Kennywood when I went. It gave me some nice floater on the drops, some strong laterals, and me and my family, we rode this at least 3 times when we were there at our last visit. But who knows, it could just be my sentiment. This ride could be trash. Well, my mom said it happened and no one can tell me what I remember. Fuck out of here. I have a very vivid memory of my childhood. Yeah, it's probably more fabricated than El Toro. I mean, I said that I was in an amusement park with other people. I mean, that's already unlikely. Whatever you recall, there is a big pool of people who love this coaster. They think Thunderbolt is a beautiful, thrilling piece of a primitive time of amusement parks. Just a piece of history right there. What are some of your most nostalgic memories at amusement parks? Comment them down below, hit that like button. Sure you're getting all your notifications. Share with anybody that loves Kennywood, loves Thunderbolt, or just anybody, because everybody has nostalgia. I'm Rob from Rob's Rides, keeping it 100 with all things amusement. And if you thought it was Missy Coaster, hit subscribe and I'll come back with a new video.